Hello, relentless homesteaders. A quick update. Lots of things have happened, just a lot of quick things to talk about. The How to Homestead series went up last week. I was really anxious to get the new part done. We're really starting to get into the meat of it. I want to get into the how part. That was just the what. Now there's a lot of how and questions for you and such. And I was anxious to dive into it, but you know, I have to work for a living, and just really got hammered this week. Lots of stuff that had to be done. So I'm going to get that out of the way, and looking forward to getting that out this next week. Quick update here on the Star-Lite Wars project. So we left that series. We had the solar panels up, all the electronics up, the inverter, all that, but we didn't have the critical load panel connected up. So this is the critical load panel. Here's the regular breaker panel that runs off the grid. And I had set up before to where I had a generator input here, and you see this is tied together with the main so that the main has to be shut off when the generator's on. Now here's the tie-in from the inverter. Comes into the panel because the power actually, feeds the grid. So there's a 40 amp breakers in there. Now many of the breakers here, you'll see the red marks. These are breakers that I've taken out of here in terms of taking their loads off and moved them over now into the critical load panel. So these are running right off of the inverter. Now these are critical loads, and I can't run all the loads. I have the well pump and the pressure pump coming off of these. I need to get the labels made for it. Well pump and the pressure pump. And I'll show you that in the back I have those to where they run at different times. So although each one of those is a 15 amp load, I don't have to add the two loads for 30 amps. They're actually considered as 15 amps, so that'll reduce the loading on this critical load, which this can only take about 50 amps max. So it's pretty light. And I've got some bench power, some bench light. And then there's a breaker here that connects up to the house. There's 30 amps here that also feeds the house, and you'll see it going up through this conduit, which that runs all the way down. Finally got that in there. You can see it running all the way down from the top there. Goes all the way to the other end of the pole barn, down out through the conduit, through the ground, and all the way over to the house. So I still have to connect up the loads over at the house. But I can't tell you, I'm really so glad to be able to have backup power on our pumps. It means a lot to me, and being able to have power at the house. Okay, the timers are in. You'll see them up here. One on top's the well pump, and the one below it is for the pressure pump. And here inside the house, we're at the breaker panels, multiple breaker panels. Here's like the first one that went in on the house. The house was built in '65. Then they added a second one for more loads. And now this is the critical load panel that was just added. A little stiff. And I've got a few breakers in there, but I still have to attach the load. So I have to find a load for the refrigerator. And then I'll be connecting in the circuits for the freezer out there, and a few other critical loads that don't draw too much power. And then if we run into Teotihuacan or other difficult times like that, I can add the wiring over it. If the grid goes down semi-permanently, then I can just readily wire things over as needed and use power as necessary. That's it. Yeah, I wanted to show you the completed drain project out here. It's been in for a few weeks now, a month, I don't know, a little bit. And I had this all cleaned off, and of course as soon as I got everything cleaned off on this area, a storm came, lots of leaves and all that. But anyhow, so the The drains here is done, and underneath the drain, see that runs all the way along in front of the greenhouse and runs all the way in front of the lower garden bed. So there's a drain all along that. It actually goes all the way up almost to the pole barn, goes around the corner and up to the pole barn. But underneath it, along this line here, to up in front of the greenhouse and coming from the pole barn, is where there's conduit and wiring comes all the way from the pole barn up there, down underground, down through this, down through one layer of concrete, down through another set of concrete, down underground, in front of the greenhouse, and all the way along this strip here, goes under there, under the grass, goes under the concrete here, over to the house, up the wall, into the attic, over to the center of the attic, and then down before it gets over to the sub panel. I guess 400 and something feet away. So it's in. That was a really major milestone. That's something I've kind of been concerned about for a while. Just so glad that it's in. It's small wires. I've just got a 30 amp circuit over there. But in the house, we really don't need a lot of power. The well pumps are out in the pole barn. Still a little shot here from inside the greenhouse. The greenhouse is mostly a storage house right now, but I have moved these plants in here. Doing pretty well. So I need to get a little, have to water these. I kind of was waiting for them to dry out, and I think they're finally there. Yeah, okay. They could use some water now. But really trimmed them back savagely at the end of the summer and caused them to really spurt in growth. So they're in good shape. I keep them in here during the winter time, and then I'll put them back out come spring. There's a lot of garbage in here, a lot of things I need to get picked up and really turn it into a real greenhouse this next year. I'd really like to, in fact, even get like a lemon tree and a mandarin orange in here. Obviously, very small dwarfs. But yeah, there's a lot of work, but it's a nice structure. I'm looking forward to really make use of it. Just a quick one here on the lower garden. I was so busy on the solar project and all the wiring, getting the wiring down, which, by the way, here's where the wiring comes out from the pole barn. Well, anyway, I was saying I'd kind of allowed these things to go, and the bugs just ate them up. Caterpillars, grubs, slugs. So now I've been getting out in the evening with a light, picking them off. So they should get a chance now to start coming up a little better. Especially they're attacking the cabbage. Boy, look at that. They just ravaged the cabbage there. So, but I was glad that I have some lettuce coming up. Some kale over here. See the purple kale? And then the clover. There we'd shown about this clover. You know how gorgeous that is. I found one weed in it so far. That's it. No, there's a couple things I left to grow up in it. Some leftover onions, chives. But gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. So here's the string of peppers in the pantry. Really went through and ate a lot of peppers, but some of the others in the process of drying out. I may actually throw them in the oven on dehydrator mode to get them a little drier. It's pretty moist in this environment. I don't want them to rot, so I may do that. They sure are, they are pretty when they're hanging. Love it. See, we've got here's our potatoes stored away. We've got another box over there. These are more of the seed variety that I'll use for seed, and they're the ones we'll eat. And a new acquisition here on a chest freezer. It's pretty good size, 20 cubic feet. And I actually took some pictures of Mrs. RH had climbed into it and was cleaning the inside of it out, and it was just hilarious. I mean, she could have laid in this thing, slept in it. It's huge. So anyway, it's got all set up. It's got all the nice dividers. Got it on, did a Craigslist. Mrs. RH did a great job of finding and dealing, and it's just, it's going to be wonderfully handy. Now I will be starting off soon getting some dry goods together. Beans, rice, putting them in the 5-gallon bucket. So we'll be detailing that, the order and all that. We've been researching it a little bit as to what we want. Got all the lists figured out, so soon we'll place the order and go down and pick it up and start bucketing things together. Just picked up on Craigslist this last week another tank, 20-gallon propane tank. The new one here's the gray one. It's a little shop worn. I will want to paint it, you know me. And it still has like half full of propane. It got a good price on it. Let's say it should be less trauma when the propane runs out this way, because then I can just change over to the new tank. I don't have to fear about Mrs. RH being in the middle of baking some bread and having the gas run out. It would not be pleasant for either of us. So anyway, now I'll have a second one in. Thank you for joining us on the Homestead series today as we look out over the river, seeing the barge go by. Please comment and let us know where you are on your homestead journey. We'll be coming out with the next part of the How to Homestead series this next week and really get into the meat of it. So we hope you'll join us, and please subscribe. Hasta la Proyecto.